Good afternoon and welcome. This podcast is part of the work of the Victorian Bicultural Workers Network, facilitated by CoHealth's Bicultural program. Through these conversations, bicultural workers share their community's experiences of mental health, wellbeing, and accessing supports. These stories are shared to help mainstream services better understand the needs, strengths, and perspectives of refugee and migrant communities, and to reflect on how they can work more effectively and safely alongside them. Before we begin, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands of which this podcast is being recorded. The lands of the Wurundjeri, Woonwurrung and Boonwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respect to elders past and present, and we acknowledge that this work takes place on stolen, unceded lands. We recognise the enduring leadership, strength and wisdom of First Nations people in navigating, surviving and challenging colonial systems, and in bridging divides to support the wellbeing of their communities. My name is Jasmine, and I'm the Bicultural Program Lead at CoHealth. Joining me on the podcast today is Aisha Mahboob. Aisha and I have worked together for a very long time at CoHealth, and I'm really grateful that you're joining us today and that we can share this space. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and your cultural community?
Yeah, thank you, Jess. My name is Aisha Mahboob, and I born in Afghanistan in a Tajik and Pashtun family. So dad from Pashtun and mom from Tajik. I came to Australia in 1998, and I've been working with Afghan community for more than 25 years now. I was working as a driving instructor for 16 years in Victoria. Was a very good experience for me because I could see how people who arrive in Australia face many challenges and difficulties, and those women, they were feeling so safe to share their stories with me. Their worries, like how they were worried about raising their children in a place where they were not able to speak English, or they didn't know the rules, they didn't know any services. So during that 16 years, I was always trying to support those women because I had some people working in different organizations and I had connections with them. So I would ask them if they want to be referred, and if they were agreeing with that, I would definitely do that for them. And then slowly I thought, let's start doing this in a professional way and start working in community services. So that's where I started doing my diploma, and then I joined CoHealth and then did some other jobs. And right now I'm working as a community mental health practitioner in a bicultural role. So I'm bicultural community mental health practitioner in Dandenong Local Mental Health and Wellbeing. And I also work as part-time. It's a casual job for Relationship Australia. And in that job, I'm just running some groups for Afghan moms, tuning into kids programs.
So it's almost like you were working as a bicultural worker before you were a bicultural worker as a
That,
driving instructor and then formalized it into your profession. I love that.
that is so right, Jess. And if you remember, I was always sharing with you that people call me at 10 o'clock at night
Yeah.
and ask me a question. And then you taught me how to make my boundaries.
That's good. I want to go back and just ask you a little bit more about the Afghan community. You've already touched on how diverse that the different cultures and ethnic communities of Afghanistan. Are you able to talk from your perspective about what are some of your community's greatest strengths?
Well, resilience is one of the words which is coming to my mind straight away. And
Mm,
I've heard that from many people about Afghans, that Afghans are very resilient. And I do agree with that. But let me tell you what resilient mean for us. You know, our biggest strength is connection with people. Okay?
mm,
Afghans cannot live without each other. We always support each other. And when someone from Afghan background needs help, we don't think that if that person is Tajik, Pashtun, Hazara, or anyone, we just want to
mhm.
be there and support them. Doesn't matter. I can talk about myself that if I see someone from Afghan community in difficulty, I just want to run and help them. We have been raised and grown with those kind of lessons. This gives us resilience. So we always
Mhm.
know that if I'm in a situation where I need help, someone from my community will be there for me and someone will definitely support me.
I wanted to ask a little bit about mental health. And I'm wondering if you could unpack for me how your community understands or talks about mental health and well-being, and whether or not there's any particular words or concepts that exist in your language to describe it.
Look, Jess, to tell you the truth, like I've heard about being like upset or angry, being under so much pressure, I can't sleep, all these things, even when I was back in Afghanistan. So people could like understand or they knew that there is something not right. But unfortunately, we didn't have exact words like anxiety or depression or other words that we are using here in Australia. But still, it is still a bit of a, like stigma, and some people don't want to accept this. I can see that it's changing, but still, some people don't want to talk about it. Or even if they want to bring it up, they just say words like, I'm under so much pressure, which is fashar. I'm bishar fashar, like too much pressure on me. Tashwish is one of the other words, like I'm worrying, like anxious about future or gham. Gham is like sadness, grieving, or like being sad about something. So these are the words that we normally use. And when it comes to professional support, it is a bit hard to accept at the beginning. Go to a doctor, they wouldn't say that I feel anxious or I feel depressed. They might say that I can't sleep at night or
Mm.
I have a headache. They sometimes explain it in the physical pain. I had these kind of situations during my driving school that I had ladies who would tell me that, Aisha, every night I'm awake in my bed until 2, 3 a.m. And I would say, have you talked to your GP about this? And they would say, what the GP will do about it. And I would say,
Mm.
no, if you talk about it, they might be able to help you. I never wanted to bring these words like up because I know that it's not good to tell them straight away into their face that, oh, you might go through some mental health situations or you might go through anxiety or depression because it doesn't have a meaning for them at the beginning.
What are some of the ways in which community support each other through that, or how do people seek help either back home or in Australia when they are experiencing mental health challenges, but perhaps understanding them from a more physical lens?
Faith is one of the most important things in Afghan's life, as we are all Muslim. And most of the time, we would just go to our religious leader or some close family, friends, or family, or someone that you trust, especially in
Mm.
your own community, from your own community.
You mentioned before that stigma is still an issue for people talking about mental health. Where do you think people draw the line in sharing or disclosing their worries with concerns about stigma or being
Uh,
judged?
Just in Farsi or Persian or Dari, which is like that, it's the same language but spoken in different dialects. So
Mm.
we have a word called rawani. Rawani
Mm.
sometimes means crazy. Okay,
Mm.
so mental health is sahat rawani. So health is sahat, rawani is mental, like mental.
Mm.
So word mental is a swear word sometimes. People use it as a swear word. So if you say that I have sahat rawani, my sahat rawani is not good, people might think that, oh, that person is crazy. So
Mm.
even when I'm like working here, I'm trying to say it in a very cultural way instead of
Mm.
using words which is sending negative message to the service user. So usually we need to be careful with these words and wording. So that's making it stigma. People will think that, oh, as soon as I tell someone about my mental health, they might think that I'm crazy.
And this is part of the struggle, yeah, is that if there's not culturally appropriate language to use when moving between languages. So, for example, if a doctor or a practitioner is talking about anxiety or depression or mental health or those kinds of things, if there's not another way of explaining that in the person's language, and they're defaulting to things like the words that are available that have stigma attached to them, it creates a very hard space to be able to hold empowering conversations with individuals to feel safe to open up, I imagine.
Yes, that's where the trust will break, and that's where people will stop going to that service. And that's where they will think, oh, if I go there, I'll be called names and being judged. So, yeah.
I want to ask, what do you think are some of the other challenges that people from your community face when engaging with mainstream mental health services?
I will just share quickly one of my experiences, a recent experience I had with one of our service users. So, I was working with our family therapist. And I usually, when I sit there, I don't interpret words. So I
Mm,
usually tell the therapists and clinicians that I'm not sitting here to interpret words because as a bicultural worker, I'm trying to interpret culture. I'm trying to interpret feelings. I'm trying
mm,
to interpret the needs of the community. So if I sit there and interpret word by word, sometimes it might cause some issues for the service users. So as a bicultural worker, I always let them know that this is what I'm going to be doing. And luckily, they agree with me. So we were sitting with one of our service users and we were just giving her some techniques and we were asking questions and stuff like that. And the comment she gave me, it made me so happy. She looked at me and she said, Aisha, this is the first time that I'm hearing something really useful about my relationship with my children from a service.
mm,
It made me feel really good, Jess. Like I was
mhm,
just, yeah. And I've just interpreted the sentence to the therapist, and the therapist was happy about it too. And she said, oh my God, it's really deep. And I said, yes, I know, because the way I was explaining things, I was just connecting it to my own experiences as well. So I was just explaining the culture of Australia, culture of Afghanistan, and then the mix that our children are experiencing in here, the mixed culture. I've just explained to her that they're like third culture children. And we just need to be able to cope with those situations to be able to have a good relationship with them. And she was really impressed with that. And she's still coming to us, and I'm really happy. It's going really well. And I can see the change in her. So these,
mm.
yeah, this is one of the things which impressed me so much, that having someone from the same culture and background is really helpful.
Yeah, it's such a powerful thing having that insight and that lived experience of knowing what are the unique challenges that a person faces during that settlement period or even migrating to a new country or coming from a refugee-like background that enables you to have that really nuanced understanding of the types of supports that a person might be needing. And I guess some of the stories that we've been hearing on this podcast is that when community members from refugee backgrounds or from different cultural backgrounds are just engaging with mainstream services that don't have bicultural worker support or clinicians who have a lived experience of migration, that nuance is really missed and that people fall through the gaps of not being understood or supported because the workers just don't have that understanding of the types of challenges that they're facing.
Yeah, and to add a little bit more, just everyone, like the problems are different. It's normal for every human being. The problems are different. And also, culture has a big impact on the way we are looking at life. So, for a person from Western culture, if like the children travel and go and live somewhere else with their own kids or partner, it's okay for them. They don't mind that. But if you're coming to Australia and you have all your children in Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkey, anywhere else, and you don't have a way to bring them here to Australia, and you're so helpless with that, that's a big concern. So for someone from Western culture, they will think that, oh my God, like your children are grown ups. They've got their own kids and they're like adults. They can all make their own decisions and have their own life. But for Afghan culture, no.
Mm.
They're always our children. We always feel responsible for them. We always think about them. We always worry about them. So when they come and tell me that I can't sleep at night, every night I'm awake and I'm thinking about my children who are still in Iran, I understand that pain because I know the culture, I know the way that we have been raised and how the community is working. but it may not be that obvious for someone who's from a Western culture. They might think to themselves that, oh, okay, that's fine. So that person is like in his 30s or like late 20s and they're having a good life in there. So what's wrong with you? Why you're thinking about them? So
Mm.
these are the points that someone from the same culture can explain to the clinicians.
But it's also a question of rights and privileges too, isn't it? If a person doesn't have a understanding around visa pathways or eligibility for travel or family reunification, they might assume that a refugee family's children living in another country is the same as their children deciding to go and live abroad. What is something you wish mainstream organisations understood about your community and culture?
Sometimes when I'm working with someone from my own culture, I can explain mental health in a cultural way for them, or I can just give them some examples. Like one of the examples I usually use, some people would tell me that, oh, no, don't worry about taking medications or going to psychologist because they're just sitting there talking. It won't help me. I've already started like reciting Quran, or I've already started praying, and I'm sure that these things will help and I might be better, but can you help me in such and such areas? And I will just tell them that, yeah, I know that those things are helping because I've used it myself. I've done like prayers and I've just recited Quran and it's supporting me so much. But if you're a heart patient and your cardiologist gives you some medications and tells you that you need to take this like regularly, will you take it or not? And most of them will answer that, oh, yes, I shall definitely take it. And then I'm saying, yes, so we can recite Quran, we can pray, we can always ask Allah to give us long life because we have got children, we have got lots of responsibility to go and do for our family and friends and community. But beside that, we will definitely take our medication. So mainstream organizations should let people practice their own culture and faith. So if they want to involve their family members, let them involve their family members. I had some situations where they would think that if a husband is coming and sitting with the wife, it's control. In some families, it's not control. Like in my own family, my husband will go with me to my appointments, and I love that, and I go to his appointments, and he usually wants me to do that. So, in some of our families, it's not control. So, we need to work on our assumptions. So, we need to work on that, that we don't need to have this assumption that if a man is coming with a woman, it's definitely control. It can be love, it can be support, it can be wife who asked for that support. Maybe wife is not able to drive, maybe wife is not involved with so many things in the house and wants that husband to be there. And sending messages to their husband sometimes make mainstream people think that, oh, maybe they want to control the wife. That's why they want the messages to go to them. So
Mm.
these type of things I think should be worked on, and organizations should take some training about all these stuff and listen from bicultural workers and people who are from that culture and understand. Or like adult children, sometimes people involve their adult children with some of their life daily life things that's happening because they don't have the knowledge, they don't speak English. But some organizations, they say that no, we don't want your children to be involved, we just want to hire an interpreter. So yeah, they want interpreter, but sometimes among the community, between the community, they don't want to have that information leaked through an
Mm.
interpreter. So some
Mm.
people feel more comfortable when they have their family members in those settings. So we need to bring some changes in those things. Yeah.
Thank you. I wonder if we could talk a little bit more about bicultural work. And obviously, you and I are very experienced in the role that bicultural workers play in supporting communities. But I'm really interested from your perspective, working as a bicultural worker in a mental health service. What do you see is the most important part of your role in supporting communities' access? And also, maybe what are some of the challenges?
So bicultural workers, as you're always saying, is a bridge. And I agree with that. So we are a bridge between organization and the community. So when we can explain, it's not just speaking two languages. It's about helping two worlds understand each other culturally, mentally, like language, so many other aspects of life where we can just explain to organization that these are the needs, and also we can explain to the community that these are the things, the supports that we can provide, and these are the supports that we cannot provide. So it's supporting both sides, I think. Let's talk about myself. If I walk into an organization, I've been in Australia for 28 years. So I lived more in Australia than in Afghanistan. But when I walk into an organization and I see a familiar face who can speak my language, all of a sudden my brain tells me that, oh, Aisha, you're safe. Oh, such and such
Mm.
person is here. So if I go to a GP's office and that GP can speak my language, I feel really comfortable. I can explain all the symptoms or problems that I have in my body in my own language, and it's very easy for me. You know what's happening? It's really funny. I just shared this with my lead practitioner that some people are coming to the office and asking for me. We are
Mm.
here to see Aisha. And then they're saying, Aisha, do you have an appointment? And I'm saying, no, who is it? And they say, oh, someone is at the door and at the front and they're asking for you. And I'm going there, oh, Aisha, someone from that office told me that you are working here. So I
Yeah.
came here to seek help. So it's not Dandenong local, it's Aisha's office.
I think that that raises a really important point though, because I think one of the things that mainstream organizations struggle with is knowing how to support bicultural workers navigate that complexity and the ways in which community expect them to show up. What would you recommend to, let's say, another local that might be wanting to employ bicultural workers? What would be your recommendations to them about how to support those workers?
Right now, we are really working on that just to make like something into a proper document and share it with locals and let them know how to utilize the expertise of their bicultural workers. Because here in Dandenong, locals, we have been really supported and we have tried to bring lots of changes. And also, I know about the workshops that Cohort running about the management team to get some training about how to utilize their bicultural workers profession in the right way. So training is, I think, one of the most important things for organizations to learn. When communities understand the service and the service understand communities, this is where we can have trust. And if people trust the organization, they will be very happy to come and seek support.
Yeah, so powerful and so true. And I think in all the training that I deliver across the sector around the value of bicultural workers and employing bicultural workers, that's really the key essence of it all is that bicultural workers build trust by building bridges between community and organizations and supporting organizations to be more culturally safe, more understanding of community needs so that trust is transferred from the bicultural worker to the other workers in the organisation, which is a huge responsibility, but also a real privilege when organisations are brought into the fold of community through that trust.
Yep. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Aisha. It's been such a brilliant conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time. And I always love working with you and spending time chatting with you. So I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that the conversation will continue offline for many more years to come.
Likewise, I'm really glad. It was like a privilege, Jess.
Thanks
Yeah.
so much, Aisha. It's been great.
Thank you so much.